If you're a European politics connoisseur like I selectively can be, then you've probably heard a little something about Europe's move to the right, especially over the last few years. And you've probably also heard that it's France that we need to be watching. Hey guys, I'm Sana, this is AJ Plus, and today we're going to look at Europe's move to the right, France's National Front Party, what they want for France, and how they just might get it. So before jumping into France's far right, I want to talk a little bit about how and why Europe shifted to the right, a shift that's been defined usually, if not always, by three major points. Let's start with the far right's Euroscepticism, which means they're pretty wary, if not completely anti-European Union, which they blame for poor economic conditions and for giving jobs to foreign workers. Then there's the anti-immigrant, anti-refugee, and anti-Islam policies and campaigns that have become central to far-right platforms. And finally, being anti all those things is how these groups position themselves as populist. In their populism, far-right groups claim to be anti-establishment and represent the voices and interests of everyday people, unless those people are immigrants, foreign workers, refugees, and Muslims. And Europe's refugee crisis has been helpful for their cause, becoming a sort of political fodder. In 2015 alone, over 1 million refugees and migrants made their way into Europe, mostly from Syria, Afghanistan, and Iraq. And as German Chancellor Angela Merkel will tell you, welcoming over 1 million refugees into your country doesn't mean they'll remain welcomed. In 2015, Chancellor Merkel made headlines, even becoming Times Person of the Year, by setting the example for how Europe should respond to the refugee crisis. She was applauded and heralded as a strong leader. But since then, many Germans have turned away from Merkel's welcome and towards far-right anti-immigrant groups like Pegida and the Alternative for Germany Party. Here's, by the way, the interesting thing about the Alternative for Germany Party. It started off as an anti-euro currency protest movement in 2013 and eventually evolved into a full-scale political party with an anti-immigrant, anti-Islam platform in 2015. In fact, on their platform, they explicitly state that there's no room for Islam in Germany. And that platform seems to resonate with a lot of voters. In the March 2016 German state elections, Alternative for Germany won almost 25% of the votes. It now has parliamentary seats in 10 of Germany's 16 states. One of the other big examples of the far right making strides in Europe is that of the United Kingdom Independence Party, which also utilized anti-immigrant rhetoric and was successful in convincing citizens to vote in favor of leaving the European Union. Then there's the Sweden Democrats Party, which distanced itself from its white supremacist roots and in 2014 won 49 of 349 available parliamentary seats. That's 13%, and that's impressive for a party that had just 2.9% of the votes in 2005. And of course, there's Greece's actually neo-fascist Golden Dawn Party, which for the first time in history got into the parliament in the 2012 elections with 18 seats, and again in 2016 winning the same number. It's currently the third largest party in Greece, a country which in 2015 had an unemployment rate of almost 26% and is still in some major debt. So yeah, the move to the right in Europe is happening, and it's happening quickly, and it's happening at the voting booth. And the examples I just went through are probably the biggest instances of how and why the anti-immigrant, anti-EU far right is coming into the European mainstream. But it's France that has everyone on their toes, especially since it's a founding member of the EU. France's far-right nationalist party is the National Front, and it was founded in 1972 by Jean-Marie Le Pen and brought together former members of France's Vichy regime, self-described fascists, anti-immigrant nationalists, and others of a similar feather. Le Pen was known for his extreme right-wing perspectives and positions, as well as being the party's perpetual presidential candidate. Le Pen also often made comments sympathetic to the Nazis, like, for instance, saying that the Nazi occupation of France wasn't really all that inhumane, or that Jews ran the world, or that races are unequal. He even actually at one point was convicted of being a Holocaust denier as a result of calling Nazi gas chambers just a detail in the history of World War II. The party itself stood for nationalism, limited immigration, and isolationism. Under Jean-Marie Le Pen, the party experienced varying levels of success and peaked in 2002 when Le Pen came in second in the first round of voting but would go on to lose to Jacques Chirac. Now, that loss was heavy for the National Front, and the party basically faded away. But in 2011, Jean-Marie Le Pen resigned as the head of the party, and his daughter, Marine Le Pen, took over. And as everyone characterizes it even today, she brought the party to the forefront of French politics almost overnight. Marine Le Pen immediately began reforming the party. She wanted to distance the National Front from its past as much as possible. So she denounced anti-Semitism and xenophobia, and while the party would overturn the marriage equality law, she's included openly gay advisors all around her, which is huge for a party whose founder once famously said that it had, quote, no queens. Le Pen is also pro-choice, sees the state as critical in providing social services to citizens, and in perhaps one of her biggest reforms to the party, she recruited younger politicians. But while that seems like a big departure from the party of her father, most things which are critical to the National Front historically haven't really changed all that much. Because here's what the National Front ultimately wants. They're not huge fans of the EU, though leaving it would be difficult without parliamentary support. The Front wants to restrict immigration by slashing it by 80%. Le Pen also wants to enforce a special tax on foreign worker job contracts, restrict the French citizenship process, and even restrict government services to immigrants. Le Pen speaks at length at her rallies about cultural values, their preservation, civilizational clashes, and bringing back jobs to French workers. And in 2015, she even got in hot water for comparing French Muslims praying in the streets to the Nazi occupation of France. But here's the thing. In 2016 and 2017, Marine Le Pen's National Front has been sweeping across voters that probably wouldn't have supported the old front. Her anti-Islam, anti-immigrant platform especially has made the front appealing to a lot of voters. Take, for example, how the front has 40% support amongst voters ages 18 to 24, a voting bloc that traditionally votes left. Despite the incredible surge in support for Marine Le Pen's National Front in the run-up to the 2017 French elections, many experts and pollsters don't think Le Pen will be able to claim the French presidency. But given how far-right populist campaigns and talking points have gotten in the UK, in the United States, and in other parts of Europe, maybe Marine Le Pen will make for another surprise. Hey guys, hope you enjoyed the video. I was actually pretty surprised as to how popular the National Front is with voters, especially young voters. Like, what? So what do you think? Do you think Le Pen can take it? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.